Planet Dolan.
From trick-or-treating in July to getting the whole family together for a naked chicken dance, the Planet Dolan crew reenacts more of the best true stories from our subreddit about the weirdest things we've seen a neighbor do. My name is Nixium, and today I will be your narrator. Number 10 was submitted by The Blind Shaman. Dolan's neighbor is completely obsessed with his award-winning lawn. It's his life's biggest achievement, so he makes sure to take ridiculously good care of it. He likes to go out and tend to it the second he gets home from work, and spends most of his weekends working on it. Dolan has seen him do all kinds of crazy stuff to it, like chasing birds off his lawn, trimming his grass during a thunderstorm, and even buying a hard hat with a light on it so he can do gardening at night. But the weirdest thing of all is when he popped his head over the fence to yell at Dolan for blowing bubbles. He said the bubbles have harsh chemicals that might kill his precious lawn. Dolan told him to get lost. Number 9 was submitted by K Ninja Fox. One night Hellbent was walking home when he saw one of his neighbors was having a party. This neighbor lived in a very small trailer, but that wasn't stopping them from throwing one of the biggest parties Hellbent had ever seen. In fact, as Hellbent was walking by, the neighbor ran outside and invited him in as if they knew him. Hellbent said,
"All right, fuck it,"
and went inside. The trailer was packed with people, and it was being crammed with even more. Hellbent helped himself to some beer and watched as a tiny midget lady climbed onto the dining room table and did a striptease.
You know, on that table, you look like you're taller than I am.
It was by far the weirdest thing he had ever seen on his street. Number 8 was submitted by Nightmare the Wolf 1987. When Froggy was 10 years old, she had some new neighbors move into the house next door. Froggy was excited to meet them because they were from China and they had kids her age. To be polite, Froggy's father invited them over for a pool party at their house. Now, while Froggy and her brother were swimming later on, they heard the chicken dance song playing full blast from a stereo right outside Froggy's house. She jumped out of the pool and saw her new neighbor's entire family doing a naked chicken dance in her front yard. It was definitely a very memorable first impression. Number 7 was submitted by Chuck8907. One night, Slapped Ham heard banging coming from the apartment next to his. He went outside to investigate and saw a man and a woman waving their arms around like they were having a nasty fight. Slapped Ham could tell by their expressions that they were both really upset, but the weird thing was they didn't seem to be saying anything. He called out to see if they needed help, but they didn't even notice him. Eventually, it dawned on Slapped Ham that both his neighbors were deaf, and they were actually arguing in sign language. After a while, the man stormed off, looking about ready to explode. Slapped Ham called the police to report a domestic disturbance, but they just laughed at him when he said his neighbors were having a silent argument. Number 6 was submitted by Pikmin Salad. One day, a new family moved into Captain Street. They had 2 kids, and they were nice enough. But shortly after they moved in, the family went overseas for 4 whole months. When they got back, it was February, and the parents went door to door with a strange request. They decided that since their kids missed Halloween, they would do their own trick-or-treating in February, with costumes, decorations, and everything. They gave each neighbor on the street some candy and told them to give it to their kids when they came trick-or-treating. Captain played along to help them out, but seeing 2 kids trick-or-treating on a random afternoon in February was a bit odd. Number 5 was submitted by 2 Birds, 1 Crow. Gooby has a very eccentric 70-year-old Chinese neighbor. Anytime it snows, Gooby's neighbor rushes out to her driveway to clear it, even when it only sprinkles for 10 minutes. One time, Gooby saw her come out with a hairdryer attached to a super long extension cord. She got down on all 4s so that she could crawl up and down her driveway, melting each individual snowflake. When she was done, she stood at the top of her driveway for 5 minutes, holding her hairdryer like a cowboy from the Old West, reviewing her work. Number 4 was submitted by Freaky Ghost Girl. One time, Melissa was hanging out with some girls who lived in her street. They were innocently watching My Little Pony when one of her friends pointed out the window and shouted,
Ew!
Melissa rushed to the window to see what it was, and that's when she saw it. Her middle-aged neighbor across the street was squatting down peeing inside her cat's litter box. She didn't even stop when she made direct eye contact with the girls. She just smiled and waved. Number 3 was submitted by Dutch Oven. Pringle's neighbor has a very weird habit. He likes to walk around his house naked with the curtains wide open. His routine at night is to put on a movie, make up a big bag of popcorn, and then he stands in front of the kitchen window masturbating. Every 30 seconds he'll stop, he'll stuff a few pieces of popcorn into his mouth, then he goes right back to slapping his meat. Pringle's family have to keep their own curtains drawn every single night so they don't get scarred for life. Number 2 was submitted by Doctopie. One of Ghost Toast's favorite hobbies is bird watching. One day he went out into his yard and tried to spot exotic species of birds with his binoculars. But what he saw that day made him want to pluck out his eyeballs. Looking into his neighbor's window, he saw his extremely overweight neighbor power walking on his treadmill. Now that wouldn't be so bad, except he was completely naked and eating a big bucket of barbecue ribs. The guy had a mixture of sauce, grease, and sweat dripping down his chin onto his body. It almost made Ghost Toast puke. And number 1 was submitted by me. Back at my mom's house, there used to be this guy that lived next door named Ron. Now, Ron was kind of weird because no matter what you did in the backyard or what you did out in the cul-de-sac, Ron would be watching. We'd be tossing the football around in the backyard, and there's Ron looking out from his window, just staring at us. We'd be out in the cul-de-sac in our rollerblades playing street hockey. We'd look up and look towards Ron's house, and there he would be, standing in his front door, looking through the glass and just watching us. I don't know what Ron's problem was, but he just loved to observe everything that happened around his house. And let me just say, it was great when he moved away. Alright, so a huge thanks to the folks over at our Planet Dolan subreddit for submitting their stories. But we have another question for you. What is the weirdest compliment you have ever received? Let us know in the Reddit page linked below, and you might be featured in a future countdown.
This video was made possible by our fans over on Patreon. Thank you for the support, guys.
Until next time. See ya!